Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be discussing the question that many people have been asking for years: why is Canada so empty? To start off, Canada is the second largest country in the world, and it has a population of just over 37 million people. That may seem like a lot of people, but when you consider the size of the country, it becomes clear that Canada is actually quite empty. One of the primary reasons for Canada's low population density is its geography. Much of the country is covered by forests, mountains, and other rugged terrain that is difficult to inhabit. In fact, over 90% of Canada's population is concentrated within 100 miles of the U.S. border. Additionally, Canada's climate can be quite harsh, especially in the northern regions. Winters can be long and bitterly cold, which can make living in these areas very challenging. This is another reason why much of Canada's population is concentrated in the southern parts of the country. Another factor that has contributed to Canada's low population density is its history. For much of its early history, Canada was primarily a trading post for European fur traders. There were few permanent settlements, and the vast majority of the land remained untouched. It wasn't until the late 19th and early 20th centuries that Canada began to see significant population growth. This was largely due to an influx of immigrants from Europe, who were attracted by the promise of new opportunities and a better life. However, even with this increase in population, much of Canada remained empty. This was partly due to government policies that encouraged settlement in the prairie regions, but also because much of the country simply wasn't suitable for agriculture or other forms of development. Today, Canada is a prosperous and modern country with a high standard of living. However, it remains one of the least densely populated countries in the world. This is partly due to its geography and climate, but also because many Canadians prefer the wide open spaces and natural beauty that the country has to offer. In fact, Canada's low population density has become something of a selling point in recent years. Many people are attracted to the idea of living in a country where they can enjoy the great outdoors without being surrounded by crowds of people. Of course, there are also challenges that come with being a sparsely populated country. Access to healthcare and other essential services can be more difficult in remote areas, and economic opportunities may be limited. Despite these challenges, however, Canada's low population density is something that many Canadians take pride in. It's a reminder that, even in this increasingly crowded world, there are still places where you can find peace, solitude, and a true connection with nature. So there you have it, a brief overview of why Canada is so empty. While it may not be the most populated country in the world, it's certainly one of the most beautiful and unique. While Canada's low population density may be a point of pride for many, it's also worth noting that there are some potential drawbacks to having a relatively small population. For example, Canada's economy is heavily reliant on exports, particularly to the United States. With a smaller population, there may be limited domestic demand for goods and services, which can make it more challenging to build a thriving domestic economy. Additionally, Canada's aging population is a growing concern. As people live longer and birth rates decline, there may be fewer people available to support the country's aging population. This can put a strain on healthcare and other social services, which can ultimately affect the quality of life for Canadians. Despite these challenges, there are still many reasons why Canada's low population density is seen as a positive. For one thing, it means that there is plenty of room to grow and expand. As technology advances and new industries emerge, Canada has the potential to become a hub for innovation and development. Furthermore, Canada's natural resources are a major asset. With vast reserves of oil, natural gas, and other minerals, Canada has the potential to be a major player in the global economy. And with a smaller population, there is less competition for these resources, which can be an advantage in the long run. Ultimately, whether or not Canada's low population density is a good thing depends on who you ask. For some, it's a symbol of the country's rugged individualism and natural beauty. For others, it's a source of concern about economic growth and demographic trends. Regardless of your perspective, it's clear that Canada's population density is an important factor that has shaped the country's history, culture, and future prospects. Whether or not the country remains relatively empty in the years to come, it will continue to be a unique and fascinating place to live, work, and explore. Another aspect to consider when looking at why Canada is relatively empty is its immigration policies. Canada has a history of welcoming immigrants, with over 300,000 immigrants welcomed every year in recent times. However, the country's policies prioritize skilled workers and economic migrants, meaning that those who are seeking asylum or fleeing persecution may face more obstacles in gaining entry. Additionally, Canada's Indigenous populations have historically faced discrimination and forced relocation, which has impacted their ability to live and thrive in traditional territories. While there have been efforts to reconcile and address past injustices, there is still a long way to go in terms of ensuring that all Canadians, regardless of their background, have equal access to opportunities and resources. Finally, it's worth noting that Canada's low population density is not a fixed or immutable feature of the country. As technology advances and social and economic trends evolve, there may be shifts in where and how Canadians live. For example, remote work and the rise of the gig economy may make it more feasible for people to live in more remote areas, while climate change and other global issues may drive more people to seek refuge in countries like Canada. All of these factors, and many more, contribute to the complex and multifaceted question of why Canada is so empty. While there is no single answer, it's clear that Canada's population density is an important aspect of its identity and future prospects. Whether you see it as a source of pride, concern, or curiosity, there is no denying that Canada's unique geography, history, and culture have shaped its population in many ways, and will continue to do so in the years to come.